With ketosis, what happens is your appetite is suppressed. You become nauseated. You become lethargic. These are all symptoms of illness. The way the Atkins diet works is it makes you sick. And when you're sick, you don't eat. You don't eat as much cholesterol or fat or sugar or anything else. And as a result, things appear to get better. But are they really better? I can make your cholesterol go down, your blood sugar go down, your weight go down by putting you on chemotherapy. How many doctors would brag about their patient losing weight or lowering their blood pressure or cholesterol if they were on chemotherapy? Another way of making people sick. Anyway, you can read all about that if you want to go to the May 2004 McDougall newsletter on my website. The American Heart Association addressed these folks, and they stated in their paper, which appears in Circulation in October of 2001, they said high-protein diets are not recommended because they restrict healthy foods. Individuals who follow these diets are therefore at risk for compromised vitamin and mineral intake, as well as potential cardiac, renal, bone, liver abnormalities overall. That's what the American Heart Association Nutrition Committee says. They say high-protein diets may also be associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease. That means heart attacks, due to increased intakes of fat, cholesterol, and other dietary factors. And don't you dare feed a diabetic a high-protein diet because you'll wipe their kidneys out and hurry their journey to the dialysis ward. Yet, by the way, the professor who spoke last week at the same conference I did talked about how good it was to feed diabetics a high-protein diet. So why do these diets persist? Why are they out there? Why do they succeed? I don't really have all the answers for it, but I have a couple of them. One is people like to hear good news about their bad habits. You tell me I can lose weight and get healthy by chewing down on pork chops and pork rinds and Parmesan cheese, and yeah, I'll go for it. People love to hear good news about their bad habits. Plus, when money speaks, the truth is kept silent. And there's a ton of money in the meat industry and the beef industry. They are absolutely thrilled with these kinds of diets. And of course, it does a lot for my business too. People who follow these kinds of diets are going to be a lot sicker, which will require a lot more doctor treatments. Okay, your friends are confused, maybe you're confused, but I want to address this from a point of view that will get rid of all the confusion. What I want to do is go through some thinking with you to see if we can figure out what the optimal diet is for people. And there must be an optimal diet for people, don't you think? I mean, I got all these pets at home. I love animals, okay? I have this wonderful bird, and I know what my bird eats. My macaw lives on nuts and seeds and fruits and vegetables. And I got this really neat kitty cat at home, too. And I feed my kitty cat meat. And I got a great dog at home, too. And I know exactly what he's supposed to eat. I've got all these lovely animals at home. I've had a horse in the past, and I know what the horse eats. And you know something? I have yet to find my cat enjoying walnuts. And I don't dare feed my macaw beef. In other words, there's a diet for each and every animal that as people who love our animals, we make sure that they get the right kinds of foods because we want them to stay healthy, right? Everybody knows what those diets are, and you'd never mix them up because you know your animals would be sick and dead. If you fed your racehorse cat food, what would happen? You'd have a sick, dead racehorse, and that would be no fun. So there must be a diet for each and every animal. Yet what do we feed ourselves and our children and our spouses and our parents? What do we feed them? We feed them foods that if you fed them to animals, what would happen is the Humane Society would put you in jail. If you gave your dog cakes and ice cream and cookies, the Humane Society would be after you. But you can get away with your kids, can't you? Yeah. And yourselves and your parents and so on. And that doesn't make it right. So let's look for the optimal diet for human beings. First thing I want to do is touch upon religious teachings. To me, religious teachings, and I know what the orientation is here, so certainly I'm going to have a great interest in covering this particular teaching thoroughly, but religious teachings to me, in addition to everything else you believe, are a testament to human knowledge and history, because they've been around for thousands of years. And if the teachings weren't true, then they would be discarded, don't you think? Regardless of what religious value you want to put with these teachings, if these particular books, these particular teachings are kept around for thousands of years, they must be valid. or they discard them. Why would you keep nonsense around? And so we have Genesis telling us, God said, "Behold, I give you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of all the earth, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed, and it shall be your food." You're all familiar with that one. How about the Mormons? I get in lots of trouble with the Mormons because I always throw a Mormon Doctrine 89 in their face, and they don't like it. But I'm sorry, this is what it says. It says, "All grain is ordained for the use of man and of beasts. And these," referring to the meats, "has God made for use of man only in times of feast and famine." I mean, that's what it says. Famine or excess hunger. And that's what Mormon Doctrine 89 says, but I can't tell you the number of Latter-day Saints that are upset with me, and they don't want to hear that they're supposed to be vegetarians. I didn't write it. How about the Hindus? I love this one. Karmic consequences. The Hindus teach, and many of them are vegetarians, by involving oneself in the cycle of inflicting injury, pain, and death, even indirectly by eating other creatures, one must in the future experience in equal measure the suffering caused. Yeah. How about this one? Buddha says to become a vegetarian is a step into the stream which leads to nirvana. Teachings that have been around for hundreds and thousands of years. But my favorite one is this. This one is about my practice of medicine. It's about Daniel. You all know this story, so I'll just paraphrase it for you. It's about Daniel and his men. The men aren't doing too well, talks to the gatekeeper, says, "Look, I'd like to do an experiment." Right, it was not a double-blind, placebo-controlled experiment. But he says, "I want to do an experiment. What I want to do is I want to feed my men vegetables and water, pulses and water. And I want you to evaluate them 10 days later." And so he did. He evaluated them 10 days later, and he found the men to be healthier than those who continued to eat the royal food. I know of no passage in the Bible that talks about eating the Atkins diet, or the Zone, or the South Beach. But I do know a passage in the Bible that talks about eating what I teach and what Danny teaches. And that's because it's the truth. That's why the story is still in the Bible. If it wasn't the truth, they'd have thrown it out. This was a story that talked about eating meat and for 10 days they'd gotten rid of it. They said that's stupid. People get constipated and headaches and sick, and why would we keep that story in? Okay, let's talk about current writings from major health organizations and what they say about diet. The USDA, they have the food pyramid. And that says that the basis of the diet needs to be grains and other kinds of starches. Then you have fruits and vegetables. Look at that pyramid carefully. On top you get next the meats and the dairy, and then the very tip of the pyramid you get to eat anything you want. Cookies, candies, oils, it doesn't matter. That's what the pyramid says. Now that pyramid is designed based upon making a lot of people happy, including industry and those who happen to be eating roast beef sandwiches for lunch who are making the policies. If you want the truth, if you want to really know what the science says, you just take the top of the pyramid, you lop it off, you throw it away, and you have what I call the McDougall trapezoid, which is a starch-based diet with fruits and vegetables. Now, the Atkins people, they have their own food pyramid. They did a knockoff of this, and they've tried to convince people based using a similar design that's very familiar that they got the pyramid upside down. The USDA did, and Atkins has it right, and you know that's just nonsense. The World Health Organization says eat a nutritious diet based on a variety of foods originating mainly from plants rather than animals. The American Cancer Society says eat a variety of healthful foods with an emphasis on plant sources. Limit consumption of red meats, especially those high in fat and those that are processed. The National Cancer Institute says that colon cancer is caused by high protein, high fat, high meat diets. Every single health organization in the world has the same message. That is, you should eat more plants and less animals. There is no exception. The diabetic associations tell us it is the position of the American Dietetic Association and the dietitians of Canada that appropriately planned vegetarian diets are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and provide health benefits in the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. So there is consistency.